Today on Outside the Box Reviews, Assassin's Week continues. And today we are looking at the NECA Player Select Assassin's Creed Revelations Ezio Auditore, the Mentor figure. So we have reached the last, I guess, sort of, maybe, Assassin's Creed figure in this review series. As I've already hinted at with some of the other reviews, I'm probably going to go back and pick up one or two of the ones I missed along the way. But as of this moment, NECA does not yet have the rights to make Assassin's Creed 3 figures. So as far as new character or character designs, or large character design changes, I guess I should say, this may be our last Assassin's Creed figure from NECA. But when I saw this guy was coming out, I was excited. As I'd already mentioned, the earlier Assassin's Creed figures were alright, but that Assassin's Creed Brotherhood figure was perfect for me. And this guy looked like he had a lot of that same awesomeness going for him. So I was very, very excited to pick him up. So let's take a look at him individually, piece by piece, and see if he lives up to that lineage. Starting off in stereotypical Assassin's Creed style, like the Brotherhood figure, we have an alternate hand. This is an alternate left hand for Ezio, and it's a closed fist. Now, granted, this is a retool of the Brotherhood figure. I don't think it's a retool. It's a repack of the Brotherhood fist. But it still works. It's still a good piece. It's the only extra hand we get. The figure comes out of the package with his gripping hand for his right hand, and then his left hand's kind of this semi-open hand that I like. I really don't anticipate using the fist much, if ever. So it's probably just going to go in my bag of accessories and stay off to the side. But cool that you have the option should you want it. Ezio also comes with his sword. According to the packaging, this is the Yatagan sword. Really nicely detailed. Some really ornate sculpting on the lower part of the blade. It's a nice paint job we've got with a lot of the other ones where it's a silver, but kind of a dirty silver. Some red rivets going down the bottom of the hilt. A really cool shape. It reminds me of kind of like a cobra head or something. Maybe that's just me, but a really cool shaped sword. Really neat design. I like the whole Constantinople feel of the game, the whole scenery change. I think it was kind of refreshing. Not that I minded being in Italy, all those other games, but it's kind of cool to get a change of pace and to kind of see a little bit of a fish out of water story for Ezio. Really cool sword. We also get what's referred to in the packaging as the Macedonian dagger. It's very simple looking. It's got some more red little rivets up here on the hilt. It's a nice little dagger. And then we get the crossbow. The crossbow being kind of a retool of the same crossbow I think we got with some of the Assassin's Creed Brotherhood figures. I never picked those up, so I don't know what they look like firsthand. But this is a cool design. It kind of has like a bird face on the front. A lot of sculpting, a lot of paint detail. The rope is hard plastic, hard sculpted, so there's no movement here. You can't cock it back or anything. It's just permanently stuck like that. There's no bolts in it or anything like that, so no actual appearance of it firing. Not even really a trigger mechanism down here, unless this whole thing is a trigger. I don't know. Maybe it's in here. I'm not really sure how it goes. There's a lot of great sculpting, a lot of great paint on it, and I really dig this weapon. The best part about all these weapons is not only can he hold them very easily, but they could all go onto his armor. The sword has its own spot right up here. And clip it right onto his belt. The dagger has a sheath right here in front. Let's slide that in. And it took me a while to figure it out, but if you flip him around, there's the strap back here, and there's a little indentation on the crossbow. And whether you're supposed to be able to do it or not, you can actually slide that right in there and have that clip basically onto the strap. And he's got his crossbow slung across his back. So I love the fact that just like in the game, you can get all his accessories on his person at one time so he could function as a character. Really cool, big props to NECA for pulling that off. Now the good news and bad news with this figure is he is a complete retool of the Brotherhood figure. Nothing really all that different. The same basic buck is underneath this thing. Starting off with the face, I think they did a great job of aging Ezio. He's got his full beard going on, but the detail's still there. The scar, something I always look for being on his lip in every one of these figures. He's got big, thick eyebrows. I think they aged the face appropriately. He kind of just has that look of a little bit aged, a little bit worn. His skin doesn't look as tight or anything anymore. Really subtle detail I think they put in here that makes it really work as a character. The hood is soft rubber as usual. You can kind of peel it back a little bit to see underneath a tiny bit. I like this hood a little better because it seems to work with the character design a little more. It's got this kind of loose part around the base of the neck, which is just completely loose. You can move it as much as you want. The rest of it's tight to the head, but it has a good profile to it as usual. Some really nice silver details around the edging of it, especially here in the back, some nice ornate detail. I really do like this hood. Plenty of layers to Ezio's costume this time. You kind of see, I don't know if this is a scarf or an undershirt up around his neck with some striping on it, which looks great. He has his, presumably an undershirt underneath this, the same color as everything else, because he has the tunic coming down the front, more silver detailing, silver piping along a big logo in the center of the chest. Coming down the skirt part, I guess, once again slit up the side so you get more articulation, but all these multiple layers. There's really like the illusion of 3 or 4 different layers coming down here on each side, which is really cool. Maybe even 5. You got 1 here, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the illusion of 5 layers coming down off this cloak, which is really neat looking. Still tons of that silver detail, not just on the top, but even underneath. Just detail everywhere on him. Really, really phenomenal. He has his red belt, as always, with the thing hanging down the back. Now, this isn't loose. This is sculpted onto the cloth itself. That doesn't bug me one bit. But that comes all the way around. No ornate belt buckle this time. Just some leather belts going over top, each with their own silver detailing. Rivets on here as well. Pouch in the back, some just plain leather detailing that's not highlighted by paint. One problem I do have is for some weird reason I have a little bit of gold splashed down here. I'm sure this isn't supposed to be here, but I don't even know where it's from. Possibly it's from the hook blade paint. That's the only real gold on the figure itself. Kind of odd. More straps up here on the back. He's got his shoulder armor as usual. This whole arm is armored up a lot. Bunches of different plates and bigger, thicker wrist guards and everything. I like the fur effect over here. This fur, NECA pulled off a lot better than they did on the Snake Predator. If you remember that review, if you watched that one, I love that figure, but I felt like the fur didn't really look like fur. This looks very fur-like to me. I like this. This worked out really, really well, in my opinion. The overall color scheme, honestly, on this looks really good. There's a lot of layers of paint and diversity in the paint, and all the details seem to have the paint they're supposed to have, but there's all these little sculpted details, especially here on the wrist guard. Just tons of little sculpted details and just simple washes and dry brushing to bring them out. That works very effectively. For his hidden blades, we have 2 different ones this time. The mechanism you can see underneath here. Now on this arm he has his hook blade, which was new for that game. Comes down, has the hook on it. A little bit of gold there, as I mentioned before. I think this looks pretty good. I'm glad they put the hook blade in there. I was kind of worried they wouldn't do it, but it looks right. It's necessary for the character. I really dig it. And then on this side, we have the standard hidden blade. Works just like the one on Brotherhood did. Probably is the same mechanism, but I like it. Overall, detail-wise, this figure is knocking it out of the park. I have no real complaints on anything except that stupid little splash of gold paint, and that's pretty ignorable. I think NECA did a really great job getting the detail work on this figure together. On the Brotherhood figure, I'd praised articulation. As I mentioned before, it's the same buck. So we have the same kind of articulation. The ball-jointed head, little hindered, can't really get much up and down because of the way it's sculpted, but you do get a good side to side out of it. Pin socket shoulder, so you could rotate around, up and down. The way this armor is, however, it feels like his arms can't really get into a place where I want them. They all seem like they're kind of stuck out to the side in an odd manner, which kind of loses him some points. He has this swivel hinge joint here in his shoulder, so you can bring him forward and back. He has a swivel in the upper arm. He has a bend and rotation at the elbow. Once again, it's one of those things where you have to kind of rotate it, then bend it. Still hindered by these gauntlets, which is a pain. I really wish they could find a way to get that to work a little better. I almost feel like they need to just use this bicep swivel up here and maybe go for a double jointed arm or something like that. Maybe that could alleviate the problems. On the hand, you can swivel and also bend at the wrist. The torso has the ab crunch here. Now on mine, he tends to be a little loose and kind of tips forward more often than not. This doesn't bug me a lot because being an older Ezio, it kind of makes sense for him to be a little hunched over in my mind. But also, once you add the crossbow onto his back, it kind of fixes his posture a little bit, which is kind of nice. He has the swivel above the belt. Come down here, he also has the swivel below the belt. So 2 different waist joints. The legs can go forward and back, and you could rotate that ball joint up there to go out to the side. Kind of the same stuff we've dealt with before that I don't really care for, but still works. Swivel at the upper leg. Double jointed knee. Swivel at the boot. Bend at the ankle. Bend at the toe. And there's a very mild pivot in the ankle. Overall, the Assassin's Creed Revelation Ezio is a lot of fun. I like this figure. I think he combines the best of everything NECA has done on the Assassin's Creed line. It is really, I think, the highest of these figures for me in this whole series. So I'm going to start this off by saying I give it a high recommend. Any fan of the game is going to love this thing. He is fantastic. I loved the Brotherhood figure because of the posability and all the detail in that, and the way they kind of mixed the posability in with the clothing and making it look accurate. And I just thought that was a triumph by NECA of how to get a character to work articulation-wise, which is important for Assassin's Creed. However, the accessories on that one were kind of hit or miss. You had to buy a bunch of toys just to get all of the accessories he kind of needed to be an effective assassin and to represent the character accurately. On the original Altair figure, it was the opposite. The articulation wasn't quite there, the sculpt and paint weren't quite there, but he had weapons like crazy. And both of those figures I loved for those reasons. This guy puts both together. He has 3 different weapons that he holds on his person along with his 2 hidden blades. The articulation's great, the paint's great. Overall, I just love this figure. Really highly recommend him. I think NECA might have shot themselves in the foot a little bit because I don't see any reason to buy any other repaints of this guy. But looking forward to the future, I'm a little disappointed because as of this recording, NECA does not have the rights to produce Assassin's Creed 3 figures. And seeing that this is the high mark, I don't want it to be the end. If they could do this kind of detail on Connor, and I love the design of Connor in the new game. I love the way he has his weapons, all the different things, the tomahawk, the bow and arrow, everything I just think is really cool, really neat. I definitely want to see NECA make a figure of it. So I actually went on to their Twitter and asked them. That's one of the great things I love about NECA, is they actually will communicate with their fans. And NECA told me that the only thing us fans can really do is to talk to Ubisoft or however the heck you pronounce their company name and tell them that we want NECA to make the Assassin's Creed 3 figure line. And I am going to go and petition them as much as I can, and if anyone else out there is as much of a fan of this as I am, I would implore you to please help us out. Talk to them, send them a message through Twitter, send them through Facebook, however you can get in contact with them. Let them know that fans want NECA to continue this line, because I would love to see more in this style. I feel with every one of these figures, NECA's gotten a little bit better. There's definitely a very strong progression that NECA has shown with these, and I am dying to see what they could do with an Assassin's Creed 3 figure line. And who knows, maybe if they got that right, there'd be enough incentive to go back and give me some of the other things like the Old Man Altair and I don't know what else. Just give me some other figures. Give me a Desmond. I would very much like to see even Hatham from Assassin's Creed 3. I would like to see NECA tackle as well. He could be a cool character. But having gone on that rant, make sure you check out Outside the Box reviews on Facebook. I'll leave a link in the description below. I normally post finds that I find in stores, whether I buy them or not, or whether I'm going to review them or not. It's at least my attempt to put out there what I'm finding in stores, what other people may be interested in, and also for some discussion on some action figures on there. And next time, we're actually going back in time, going from Revelations back to Brotherhood, and taking a look at a different kind of Assassin's Creed collectible. Stay tuned.